The attacks on Christians and Christianity continues in the Western world, especially in the United Kingdom. Now a top priest, Anglican Catholic priest, has been cancelled and kicked out of church for criticising the Prime Minister. And in this live stream, we are joined by the same priest to talk about everything that's been going on in our country. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2CTV, your global news channel. I'm Maya 2C and this is your latest update, this time from the United Kingdom and cancel culture. As you guys know, over the last few years, with the rise of the woke, liberal, progressive agenda, we have had, let's just say, complacency at times from some people in the establishment, and some other people just didn't really care about our cultural Christian values, which, even though it kind of affects many things, it's not really just about religion itself, it's also about the constitution, the way of life and everything that we have. The attacks on these things started, then obviously the rise of Islamophobia. You can't criticize one religion, but you can mock Christians all the time. You can do whatever you want when it comes to Christianity. There was a bit of a double standard. But now, Christian preachers obviously get arrested if they preach, whereas obviously the Islamic side can do that, it's fine. If you silently pray in your head, you could get arrested. And now we have a situation where if you're a priest and you criticize the political establishment or the Prime Minister, well, you get kicked out of church. Ladies and gentlemen, in this live stream, we are joined by a very special guest and a good friend of 2CTV, Father Phil Harris. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Yes, I have been a little better. I commented earlier that in almost 40 years of pastoral ministry in some shape or form, the last 3 weeks have probably been the most difficult that I've experienced, or 3.5 weeks, I should say.
Yeah, so we have met a couple of times in person, and a few times actually. And you know, you care about the country. I mean, you got the religious part, but obviously you do that because you care about people, you pray for people, and you want the country to be a better country. You're not necessarily an anarchist who want to bring down the system in that sense. But you've now got into trouble. So you criticize the Prime Minister, especially over his management of the country, especially when it came to the Southport massacre and everything else. And the church that you were part of, they didn't like it. So let's start from the beginning. In case people don't know who you are, tell us about yourself and your background, and obviously what you've been doing, because obviously you were in the St. James's Church.
Yeah, so I am a priest in the Anglican Church of North America, which is an Anglican jurisdiction, part of the global south of the Anglican Church, and also is part of GAFCON, the Global Anglican Futures Conference. And I work in the UK, so I'm also licensed to a jurisdiction called CEC, where I work across the world with bishops. In 2021, my father became ill, misdiagnosed through COVID. And by the time they corrected the diagnosis, it was actually too late, and he developed cancer that was untreatable. And he was the minister of St. James Church, which is in the Wesleyan tradition. And on his deathbed, he said to me, "Make sure my church is okay." And so I went to the trustees and I actually said, "Look, I'll help you find a new minister." And that was really where I was coming from. The net result ultimately was I became the minister. And my bishop, because I'm an Anglo-Catholic priest, my bishop actually said, "Look, let's enter into a local partnership agreement." John Wesley, George Whitfield, they were both Anglicans until their dying day. We don't see a problem, and we will re-establish the church. And so that's what we've done. And the church has grown 350% and was thriving. And we were just at the cusp of something happening. Now, let me just say, I gave my time free of charge to develop the church, which turned out to be a 60-hour week, ministry. And my bishops have been incredibly gracious in affording me the time to, because I technically should have been working for them, in a wider role, have been very gracious in giving my time to the church. We started to see in the nation last year real problems, and particularly when it came to Southport. And I think there's a number of things that I've become patently aware of. Obviously, I am pro-life, and I started to become aware of the Islamification of the nation in a profound way, of which the church seemed to be sleepwalking into a massive problem. And I work in the Middle East. I work in Israel. I normally, for many years, I spent a year in Israel, working with the Christian church there. And I saw what, for instance, has happened in Bethlehem. And, Bethlehem, that was 83% Christian not that long ago, is now less than 8% Christian. And when you actually look at then what happened in Gaza, when Israel pulled out of Gaza, there was something like 2,000 Christians in Gaza, which came down to like less than 800. Yeah, and so we'd seen the persecution, and then I work in Nigeria, and tens of thousands of Christians murdered by radical Islam in Nigeria. And we then saw a whole spate of crime that was committed in the summer of last year, which culminated for me in the Southport atrocity. And alarm bells started to ring. And I had a parishioner come to me and one Saturday morning, 3rd of August, and I'd been watching all week, getting very concerned. And I have impeccably for 8 years, or previous to that, had represented my church nationally as one of the 54 denominations recognised in the nation. I had represented impeccably, without speaking out of turn, following the processes. I saw that we're on a cusp of a wave, and I had a parishioner in tears going, I'm 79 years of age, I've paid my dues, and the Prime Minister's just called me a far-right thug. And people like Dame Angela Jenkins and others, who were people of renown in the nation, put out this hashtag, which I have to say, if I look back, hashtag far right thugs unite, if you read it without context, doesn't sound great. But there was a context to it. And there was we've been called far right thugs for being the centrists of 5-10 years ago. And we were just concerned about atrocities that were committed in the nation. So I put out a video, and I reminded Sakia that he was dividing the nation. And I said that a wise man said, a house divided against itself can't stand. I spoke out about that. And then at the end, I said the wise man was Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God. And a house divided cannot stand, and you are dividing the house. And, I begged for calm, and I asked where people needed to protest that they would do it peacefully, thoughtfully, quietly, and to calm the whole situation down. So that was the first video that went out, and that was 3rd of August. And actually, you put it on Tuesday TV. You took it off my Twitter feed, and you pinched it, and it kind of, you gave it loads of traction, to be fair. I mean, it had 1.9
It's my fault.
views.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. And in fact, actually, when I first saw you, I think I said to you at the time, you nicked that. But actually, it was a message that was really important. Yeah. The backlash from the establishment was immense. Was absolute, and I was cancelled very quickly within a matter of a couple of days from all those people that respected me previously because I dared to speak out. I was, persona non grata. And, I saw leaders in the local church leaders WhatsApp group for the leaders in the area who made comments, forgetting that I was actually in the group. But that's, and it went down that route. And then, of course, we got to Axel Radicabana pleading guilty in the end of January, and we were just gaslit by the Prime Minister. And to be fair, some journalists who were in the room did attempt to hold him to account, and I think you remember that, Mayor.
Yeah.
And I just put the second video out, just saying, you've gaslit us. There is no reason why this needed to be, a lid needed to be put on this in August. And of course, we know there's ulterior motives for that. And I won't speculate any more than that. But so those two videos went out. And the next thing is, on the 5th of February, the charity that I'm a trustee of and my church both received, as I understand, identical letters from the Charity Commission that were questioning those establishments, what was my relationship to them, and also were they aware of my social media posts that were made in a personal capacity as a priest in the Church of God. And that's the point. When we are ordained, when we're priested in the church, the role changes from that of a deacon, and we are to contend for the faith, and we are to reprove, and I'm reading from my charge here, and it says, the Reverend Father Phil Harris, to reprove, rebuke, and exhort with all long suffering and doctrine, shepherd, feed, and oversee the flock of God, and contend earnestly for the faith which was once for all delivered to the saints. Take heed to thyself and unto the doctrine, and keep that which is committed to thy trust. And the charge is given first to me as a clerk in holy orders, and then to the jurisdiction that I serve in. And so that's what I did. I spoke out like, Augustine of Hippo did, John Chrysostom, Basil the Great, and the prophets of the Old Testament, and Jesus himself, as well as St. Peter and St. Paul. I stood up for the people who were being persecuted and who were being killed, and the nation wasn't actually defending them.
Yes, but there is an issue here, because the people say the reality of life right now is actually more ridiculous than comedy. So a few decades ago, when you had the TV show Father Ted, that quote is now real when it says, "I hear you're a racist now, Father." That's basically about you now. People thought that's going to be ridiculous. It's comedy. It's just fiction. And it keeps happening. I mean, I joke, but actually it's the same thing people say about 1984, Big Brother, and things like this. And how much of it is basically like these are the seeds that get planted into humans' brain, even unintentionally, because we make the fiction and it becomes reality. Because I think if we keep, obviously you could have your own views, by the way, on this, because when humans think too much about, I don't know, certain temptations, including control, then you create your own reality, right? But right now you can, for example, make political statements as a priest. You can. But if you do it from one side, so if you, for example, right now, behind you have the rainbow flag, for example, or whatever else, that will be okay. But if you just,
well, the fact I've got an icon of Christ.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the counter rainbow flag. But there is a bigger problem here, because a lot of people are saying, well, there seems to be a bit of an energizing movement, especially amongst some of the younger people in the West, more conservative leaning people who are becoming more Christian a little bit, compared to like before. There's a bit of a fight back, counterculture. And there are a lot of more people who are not necessarily practicing religion, but they are now finally defending Christianity. In fact, Richard Dawkins himself, who's an atheist, he actually is now defending Christian values, saying, I would rather live in a Christian country than Islamic. But people keep saying this. Having said that, for centuries and centuries, we've had political establishments fighting among themselves for their version of, obviously, the Christian model. Whether you have, obviously, the Vatican side or Henry VIII here, and different sides, Protestants, Luther. But that fight was happening politically amongst the actual people at the top. Now, it seems like a lot of people who are saying, yes, we need to kind of fight back Christianity. Normal Christians, or maybe those who claim to be caring about it, they are fighting among themselves. There doesn't seem to be a unity. It's like we're still fighting the old fight, saying, normal people are saying, no, if you're Catholic, you're not real. If you're Protestant, you're not real. If you're Churchman, I would say, as an Anglo-Catholic yourself, what is your view on this? Because, yes, you can criticize Church of England for the rainbow flag stuff, but how do we bring unity into this so that normal people don't just spend more time attacking fellow Christians for not being a real Christian because, or you're Catholic or you're Protestant? What is going on here?
Okay, so you've raised a number of really interesting points, Maya. So let's go back. I think that we had a problem, Protestant and Catholic, certainly 20 years ago. And that actually has been somewhat eradicated. And actually, I think it's 11, 12 years ago now, where the Catholic Church concorded with the Lutheran Church and the protest was over, and which did my heart good. So one of the pictures that got put out on social media today by Dan Wootton was was a picture of me praying for Father Francis, for Pope Francis. 2017, and that's because the protest is over, and I would class myself as being Anglo-Catholic. Where we've got to, though, and this is the state of the church in the United Kingdom particularly is concerned with all things net zero and green and not offending people around sexuality and having the difficult conversations. And in fact, we've tried to fudge the conversations around sexuality. And let me be very clear, I don't care what your sexuality is. What I actually need to say that there is a prescription when it comes to what God has to say around sexuality. And so we have to, and I will condemn nobody. However, I have to hold and contend for the faith once received. So, for instance, I've never been part of the conversation, around same-sex marriage because it can't happen from the teaching of the church. End of story. For me, I have to abide by canon law. However, what we've got to is a church that stopped preaching the good news of Jesus and declaring that Jesus is Lord and declaring that Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, the life." Now, if Jesus is who he says he is, then there is no room for other religions. And when we have the defender of the faith praising,
that's King Charles.
Ramadan, praising Ramadan, how can you do that as the defender of the faith and the supreme governor of the Church of England when I've heard nothing mentioned about Lent and impending Easter? And so the church has become toothless in this nation and has stopped declaring the truth and the good news of Jesus Christ. Yeah. And that good news is a call to repentance. Now, if we want unity again, and notice in John 17, Jesus says, "I pray that they might be one." Now, there's a difference between unity and oneness. So if you say, "Canon Phil, I've got an event going on here. Because you're my friend, I will come and support it." So that's unity because we are friends. Yeah. Oneness is when I hurt, you hurt, and when you hurt, I hurt. And what the church needs to arrive at is the point that we are one, but we can only be one in Christ Jesus if we're preaching the gospel of repentance, of turn to Christ and recognizing that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. That's the only way that the church can be collective. And unfortunately, we are seemingly so far away from that right now today, and that's the problem.
Yeah, the thing is, I agree with you, especially when it comes to the leadership of Church of England. And your criticism and my criticism is that's fair because we're talking about these are political decisions made the people at the top of Church of England and the protector of the faith. But on the other hand, and you mentioned that there has been essentially peace in terms of the wider debate a few years ago between the different sects, but I'm not necessarily talking about the leaderships or the grown-ups in the room. Again, I can see in the live chat, we're going to go to the live chat, get some reaction. There's still some well-meaning people who are basically saying, but Catholics are this, they're not real, or Protestants are this, or I'm like, you're right. I agree with you that overall we've moved on from those things. Again, criticizing Church of England leadership is different. or even if Vatican, for example, makes political decisions, you can criticize. That's fine. They're still human. But I'm talking about why is it that normal people are fighting among themselves? And actually, on that note, I would like to get your views because you're an Anglican Catholic.
Yep.
So for those who don't know, what is the difference between what is the balance, for example, between that side and the Roman Catholic, and obviously then Protestant in England? How does that work?
Okay, so fundamentally, under Henry VIII, the English Church broke away from the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church is divided into the Greek-speaking Catholics, the Orthodox, and the Latin-speaking Catholics, which are the Roman Catholic Church. The church that was established by law in the kind of with Henry VIII was the Church of England, which technically was Reformed Catholic.
Yeah.
So it denied the infallibility of the Pope and some of the perceived overbearing rules of Catholicism, and it sought to reform Catholicism. Now, that in a the relationship became strained and more strained, and we ended up with a lack of understanding, I think, in terms of theology. Behind me up there, I've got a catechism of the Catholic Church. If I took the cover off it and handed it to people who were, in inverted commas, Protestant, they would agree with 95% of it. And so we need to actually just get back to the faith again once received, and the Orthodox Church as the unbroken line from the Apostles, and then the Catholic Church in 1054 that separated from that. But fundamentally, we have, a Catholic faith, and the Anglicans are supposed to be Reformed Catholics.
Yeah,
within the church,
it's not England, it's like a British Orthodoxy. That was supposed to be.
It should be. Now, what's happened is there are parts of it. It's a broad church now, so you've got very evangelical who are not sacramental, which has a problem because they're not. You've got people who are high church, but don't engage with Catholics or evangelicals or low church, and so the church has become a very, very broad church, and it's very hard in that context of a broad church to actually have the commonality of what we're standing for. I think just answering those questions, really, the Church of England should be Reformed Catholic.
Yeah.
So if you said to me, what does that mean to me? I would say I am Catholic at the altar, and if a Catholic came to a mass that I was celebrating, you would see pretty well everything that you're familiar with. And I would go, I'm evangelical in my preaching in terms of the way that I'm engaging. And so that's how I work out my Anglo-Catholicism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because right now, again, I can see some comments saying, oh, Catholics are not Christian. The whole point of the Catholics or Catholicism was just making Christianity universal. That's the whole point, just the universal church. It's not
Catholic
like
universal.
different. That's basically what it is. I mean, some people, I don't know. I'm guessing they just wanted Christianity to stay in the Middle East for some reason. I don't know what they wanted. Anyway, let's get some reaction from some people in the live chat quickly as well. We got some super chats and then non-super chats. We've got Tyler saying, "Hey TC, I hope you're having a good day. Thank you very much for that." And Bless Black says, "Father Phil Harris is a wonderful man. God bless." I can confirm that. Yeah. Oh wow, Conrad, thank you for your generous super chat saying, "Get back into church, the whole lot of you." True that.
Yes, come on.
Yes, go on, Conrad. Say sorry for using Jesus as a swear word. Say sorry for when you go through the door for acting holier than a bishop, as if you're amazing, just for being a brave atheist cynic. You're on the menu. Get into God. Listen to Conrad, absolutely.
Come on.
Yes, we got Russell saying, would Jesus and Bible represent far-right Keir? Well, about Jesus would have loved everyone, including Keir Starmer, right? But just not what Starmer does.
I think I've made my perspective quite clear there. It got me cancelled.
You can't get cancelled again. You can't get double cancelled. It's fine. Maybe you can. Maybe you'll be in a cell next to Tommy Robinson soon.
Oh, don't go there.
Nah, you'll be fine. Don't worry. We got your back. Nina says, "Hi, my lovely. My late uncle was a priest in a Greek Orthodox church. He would turn in his grave if you saw this. It's disgusting. Who exactly told him to leave? Shame on the God bless. Yeah. So, what was the actual process when you heard about what happened to you?
So what happened was the Charity Commission wrote to, as I say, the trust that I'm a charity trustee of, and to the church. Christian Concern advised me, and they themselves have looked at the videos, and the quote was, "They're so clean you could eat your dinner off them," because they are factually correct.
And you're not inciting violence.
No. In fact, I'm just holding hypocrisy and lies to account. That's all I'm doing. And so the letter was received by the trustees. The trustees of the charity that I'm a trustee of took the advice, responded, and wrote back to the Charity Commission. The church, so the 5th of February was when the email was received. The church trustees went very quiet on me. I provided them with Christian Concern and the lawyer or the barrister at Christian Concern, and they chose not to speak to them. And because the church is and Archbishop Robert was available to them as well, and he wrote to them and reminded them of my license and that it was under a local partnership arrangement, and he was there to help. They went to the Wesleyan Reform Union, who said, so they went to the Wesleyan Reform Union and took counsel. On the 14th of February, they made a decision to summarily dismiss me. That was the 14th of February. And I just want to get dates right because it's important to be right in terms of concise. On the 16th of February, we have church. Yeah, so the complaint came in on the 5th. They met on the 14th. Nothing was indicated to be wrong. People quite happily receiving Holy Communion from me. On the 23rd, we had bishops in the house from the USA. We had, a wonderful time of Holy Communion. And after the service, I was handed a letter that said the trustees were having a meeting on the 3rd of March with representatives from the Wesleyan Reform Union, and I was to be at that meeting. Now, on the week between, I was in the USA for synod. And so I flew out to the USA, and I arrived back, and I developed an abscess on a tooth, so I was in agony. And I got back from the US on the 2nd, late on the 2nd. I had a funeral to take on the 3rd, which I took the funeral, and then went to the church, and I was summoned into the meeting with my deacon. And as soon as I saw the context, the Archbishop came in on Zoom, and I put my iPad on the table, and I brought the Archbishop in. And so the whole meeting is recorded. I never want to make that recording, put that in the public domain, because it's a shocker. The Wesleyan Reform Union actually said, "We don't disagree with what you said, it was the way you said it." Okay, and so it went on from that point of view. There was no point in me being in the meeting because they'd already made the decision on the 14th. So I actually defended the corner, and they said, "Look, we've actually made the decision that we're going to dispose of your services." So I was like, "Hang on a second, this is kind of these are people that I've loved. I would have died for. I would die for my flock as a shepherd of the flock. They have received Holy Communion from me, and indicated nothing's wrong. The week that I was away, Deacon Aaron took the service, and they actually were commenting on how great the service was. And so I was literally summarily dismissed. I left the meeting and left the Archbishop and Deacon Aaron in the meeting, obviously the Archbishop via Zoom and Deacon Aaron in person. And
Yeah.
I walked through to the vestry and I put a message in the church WhatsApp group saying of my disappointment and explaining what had happened. I've seen the video now, and the Archbishop said, so for 3 years you've had my canon's time at 60 hours a week when I haven't had his services. Don't you see there's some recompense to be paid here? No, we don't. And it was like, hang on a second. And the Archbishop took a unusual step, which was he cancelled my license for St. James Church. So I can minister anywhere in the US, Europe, UK, apart from that church, for my own protection, because of the... I won't say the exact. Oh, actually, I will say the exact term because I think I have it here. If I can spot it, I will say it. But he basically said for the devious nature of the trustees. Yeah, and it was a very condemning. It was a very condemning kind of message. Now, what I said to the church was, it is with great disappointment and sadness I have to announce that the trustees have asked me to, with immediate effect, step down from my role as minister of St. James. They're unhappy at the style of liturgical worship, despite it being that of Wesley and Whitfield, that I know has been a blessing to many of you. They are also unhappy about my presence in the public domain declaring the truth of Jesus. Deacon Aaron and the family will also be leaving St. James with immediate effect. St. James is my family's church, with my mum being christened here on the 27th of December 1931 and my nan before her. I will continue to pray for you all as I know you pray for me. I am cross that a decision was made on the 14th of February without discussion with me, and I have only just been informed. I remain available to you all with much love and blessing. Phil and Ruth. And the WhatsApp group, and I thought the church had made a decision collectively. What I discovered was it was 7 trustees that had made the decision. And the WhatsApp group blew up. And people are all messaging like mad. And what then happened was I was removed from the group and by one of the trustees. And then the group was locked, so no more chat could go into it. Sorry.
No, go on.
And so what then happened was my congregation, with the exception obviously of the trustees, said, we need to meet somewhere else on Sunday. And so the whole church and the growth of the church came out with me. Now, what was the turning point on that was the trustees left the building. Yep. I was sitting in the vestry. Deacon Aaron sitting with me. We're both astounded because we worked so hard.
Yep.
And Deacon Aaron could see where I was at, and I was just like heartbroken. And so he said, look, let's go home and let's deal with everything tomorrow. So we went home, and the following day I went to the church where all my ministerial accoutrements, my robes, my library, etc. were, to discover I'd been locked out the building. So I lock it up the day before, and I can't get in the following day because they've changed the locks.
Right.
So the whole of the church then said, we've got to meet somewhere else, which is what we're now doing. I'll maybe talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So we have problems from all sides. For example, politically speaking, in terms of the structure, when it comes to Church of England, not your side, we can make an argument that because it's part of the state, there have been people who have, one might call it infiltrating, or one might say it was like an open door. So a lot of people inside it, at the top and middle management of Church of England, who have certain views in terms of, well, they call it liberal progressive, but it's illiberal and regressive. They have political motives, political views. That's why we have all these rainbow flags on top of Church of England buildings. But when it comes to, like, for example, your side as an Anglican Catholic and other areas, even if the infiltration is not inside the church, the groups outside it, they become they create a mob rule mentality, and whoever then influences them is kind of interesting, because is it just some sort of a not subconscious, like indirect vibe in the weather that they're like, yeah, we have to do this, we have to cancel this guy because society says, basically. And that becomes harder to manage or fight back, because I mean, hypothetically, the Church of England could say, okay, you get out, good people come in, because there's a more political structure with Church of England. But when it comes to influence from the outside, it makes it very difficult. So the fight is on a cultural level, on a spiritual level, not just political level, right?
Well, it's actually, so we have to be aware that we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and the rulers of darkness. So we have to recognize that as Christians, first of all. However, the bit that I just want to highlight here, which is very worrying for me, I can have a valid license as a priest of a parish. But if the Charity Commission says that I can't work in that charity, and I think out of the 35,000 churches that are in the nation at the moment, 29,000 are registered. Out of 38,500 churches, chapels, and meeting houses in the UK, 29,000 of those are registered with the Charity Commission. Now, if the Charity Commission comes along and says Father Phil can't work for that charity, I can't be the priest of that church. So what's happened here, and I wasn't aware of that until recently, until this happened, that you go, hang on, the bishop says you're great, you are proclaiming the truth of Jesus Christ, but the state says that you can't minister in a church because you don't speak their flavour of Christianity.
It's a quango. It's like Ofcom with the broadcast regulation.
It's a quango. It's exactly that. So all of a sudden we are in this mad situation now where we have seen the Charity Commission weaponized. Now, what happened with the trustees, I think they just panicked when the Charity Commission has written to them. They're all elderly. I want to give them some benefit of the doubt. They are, 5 of them are in their 80s, 2 of them are in their 70s. They panicked, and they have seen the pressure from outside, got concerned, and pulled the parachute. But that's because the pressure has come from the Charity Commission.
Yes.
And so the question is now, if we have a church, are we going to register it as a charity? Right.
That's interesting. Well, yeah, don't do it. Basically, that's
So you lose benefits, like you can't do gift aid, or you can't apply for charitable grants. But hang on a second, if we are going to have Big Brother, because you fulfill your job as a priest and you speak out, if you have Big Brother try to regulate you, how can you be how can you subject yourself to that, is my question.
You mentioned, obviously, not all churches are part of the Charity Commission. As far as you know, I don't know if you've checked, are they depending on the type of church, like, for example, Roman Catholic churches, are they the ones who are not part of the commission?
No. So any church will have its own charitable... Most churches will have their own charitable registration. There will be a charity in some shape or form and qualify, therefore, for gift aid, etc. But this is incredibly concerning, because I haven't done, lawyers have confirmed, I haven't spoken anything untoward. I have just corrected the Prime Minister, who has been provably dishonest in what he said and been divisive in his language. And I have held him to account for that, which is my role as a priest. And so because I've done that, Mayor, that the Charity Commission has been weaponized. Now, we can say the Charity Commission has received a complaint, because we don't know. And it could be someone spurious and the Charity Commission are doing their job. Or we could go, hang on, this is another state quango that are flexing its muscles. Or trying to, and have resulted in getting me cancelled.
I know, yeah. Quickly going back to some super chats, Ivan says, "Can Christianity survive given that church leaders are selling us out?" And yes, I'm still breathing my. Well, the question, to be fair, it really depends, because when you say church, it depends what country you're talking about. So in this country, when we say church, politically, we always mean Church of England. So isn't it kind of maybe at this point is a good thing that Christianity has different areas, different versions? Because if one church falls, the others will exist. I don't know, like the Orthodox fall, or Catholics.
Let me give a perspective here that will upset some and will bless others. So I notice Ivan in his super chat there. Yeah, well, yeah. So Ivan in his super chat uses church with a small c.
Yes.
If we talk church with a capital C, as in Catholic, as in universal, Catholic small c, church capital C, the church is thriving in many parts of the world.
Yes.
In the UK, we have a massive problem because I don't see the intentionality of the church leaders to declare the whole truth and nothing but the truth and the truth of Jesus. So I see people preaching all kinds of, and I'm going to use the term wokery, instead of just preaching the message of Christ, instead of unpacking the Holy Scriptures and Holy Writ and teaching people who Jesus is, what Jesus is about, and teaching people the unfolding plan of God from the Garden of Eden in Genesis to the Garden of Eden in Revelation, when there's a new heaven and a new earth, and that's the eternal hope, where there's no more dying, no more tears, no more pain, no more heartache, that we see in Revelation 21. The church has stopped preaching the exciting good news, and unless the church starts doing that, Mayor, we will not survive as a church in this nation. And that's collectively. The church has got to gain back the centre ground. And I remember sitting at meetings at churches together nationally, where certain church denominations have said we always relied on the Church of England to represent us in the public square. But now we can't. And that's the reality. And that's the problem. So can it survive? We need to get people back to church, and we need clergy who are prepared to declare that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.
Yes, I mean, absolutely, I agree. But you also mentioned obviously becomes a big C church, and obviously we're talking about the universality, so Catholic Church. It is still very successful. Firstly, despite we can criticize the political decisions at times, but firstly, it's not gone full on rainbow flag. Secondly, or saying men are women, but the main thing is the growth in terms of let's just say recruitment growth. You have, for example, countries like Iran. There's a massive wave of Christianity coming up, and some of them are basically converting to what we call Persian Orthodoxy, because Christians were there anyway before the Islamic occupation, and the rest are actually converting to Big C Church, the Catholic Church, because it seems to be more proactive and more organized. With all the respect to obviously Protestants and everybody else and normal, anybody else, the ordinary person who might be Christian differently, but in terms of the establishment part of it, comparing it to, for example, even Church of England and others, there must be a reason why the Catholic side or Big C Church is the majority, right?
So I think your Orthodox Church in Iran is Catholic also. Yeah.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So, but I think really, if I took you to parts of the Anglican Communion, they are utterly thriving. The interesting thing is the Church of England is one of the smaller parts of the Anglican Communion because it has gone down, and you can pick the points. If a church goes into decline, all that you need to do is look at the date that it went into decline and put a pin in that date and look what happened 5 years previous, and you'll find the reason for the decline. And with the Church of England, you can actually ascertain the exact reasons why it's done the things that it's done. Now, the Orthodox and the Catholic Church and the Roman Church have not fallen foul
No.
broadly speaking, of those same mistakes.
Yeah.
And so I think it's unfair to say that, for instance, the Anglican Church in parts of the global south, it is
Yeah.
utterly thriving, but it's held to the tenets of the Catholic faith. That's the point.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
the moment that you go down the rainbow flags, that you go down to female, priests,
Oh yeah.
then you will see the decline in the church, and that's what anybody thinks. That is just a reality, and
I know.
that's where we've got to with the Church of England.
Yes,
Sadly.
I know. Yeah. Quickly, Ivan also said all the denominations need to join together and fight the evil of Islam.
Well,
But here's the point, because I was ask you about even on a technical level, forget about the spiritual level and everything else. Islam, the book itself contradicts everything, so you can't necessarily say, even on a technical level, that it just follows after Jesus. Like, it makes no sense why King Charles says, yeah, Islam after Jesus, yeah, sure, we support it. What's happening here?
Well, let me give you a succinct one. The Quran actually says that Muslims should honor Jesus, right?
Yep, but as a prophet.
Okay. Okay. But then Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So either Jesus was a false prophet according to Islam, or if Jesus was a prophet, which he is, he's prophet, priest, and king.
Yeah.
If he is a prophet and a valid prophet, then they have to recognize that he is the way, the truth, and the life to God.
Yeah.
And so now the point that Ivan is making about to fight Islam, my concern is that, yes, Ivan, the church needs to stand up against, whether you are a Pentecostal, whether you're a Presbyterian, whether you are an Anglican, a Baptist, one needs to wake up to the imminent threat of subjugation by Islam, because we've seen what Islam did to Christendom, which brought about crusades. And I don't necessarily want to go tonight on that subject, but Islam is a religion of subjugation, not peace. And if the church thinks that it can rub shoulders with and get on with, it needs to wake up, and all denominations do need to join together, because they are under threat, and they are under threat of radical Islam.
Absolutely spot on. We also have Vinny saying the parents of Eastleigh are blind and lost. Yeah. And we also do have Nino again saying at the end of the day we're all Christian. Well, if
correct,
as you are,
if you're believing in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So I remember being at St. Peter's, the Vatican, for Mass one Sunday morning, and the cardinal that was leading the Mass, he said, "Who believes that Jesus is Lord?" And the cheer goes up. Who believes? Who will confess that Jesus is Lord? And the cheer goes up. And he said, "Congratulations, you are Christians."
Yeah.
And there's the reality. If we are trusting, when I hear Catholics saying to, my brothers and sisters that they're not Christians, and I hear Protestants who are saying that the Catholics are not Christians, grow up. If you believe in your heart and you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, then you will be saved. You are a Christian. Christian means Christ in. And so we Christians, Christ in, we are all Christians. So Nina Vanava, thank you very much for that super chat.
This is perfect, because as opposed to, for example, when it comes to things like Islam, it's more about just rituals, and they are told, as long as you basically do this 5 times or 3 times, And
Yep.
it comes to a point where then I have seen, for example, Muslims where because you have to stand up and then bend over, like all this stuff that you'd have to do to pray. The whole point of it, any sort of prayer, I don't really care what sort of religion, it's supposed to be like a meditation, just like peace and quiet. Focus, basically, you're speaking to God, right? But there have been many others, because they see it as a chore, the worshipping part. Then some people just check their phones and because in Islam, unlike Christianity, although Christianity you still have to respect when you're in church, obviously, but you can, for example, be like, oh, what's on my shirt? You can do that. You're allowed just check to see if there's a fly on you. Whereas in Islam, it's very strict. They say literally don't do anything, don't be distracted, just focus. But they don't, because it becomes a chore. They're like, I've been told, as long as, for example, I don't eat for 30 days during this time, and I'll go to heaven as long as I do the worshipping as a chore. Whereas, because the reason I mentioned is because you said it perfectly in terms of what it means to be a Christian. Because somebody was saying this a couple of days ago, saying, no, in order to be a Christian, you have to do the worshipping as a chore. Like, no, it's not that. Accept Jesus Christ, repent, be a good person, and obviously, then that will be your worship, and obviously not necessarily just doing a chore for the sake of doing the chore, right?
Can I just be helpful, hopefully, to some of your viewers here, Maya? Every religion in the world is about what we do for God, apart from Christianity, which is about what God did for us.
Yes.
And so God so loved the world, the cosmos, that he gave his only beloved Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. God was about redeeming humanity in a broken world, and he sent his most precious possession, his only Son. And so Christianity is about what God does for us. So why do I do morning prayer and evening prayer and compline? Because of what God has done for me. Why do I go and worship God?
It's a thank you.
Because he has redeemed me. Now, and that's the difference. So I'm not earning my way to heaven. And in fact, the Lutheran and Catholic, John Luther and the Roman Church and the split, the concordat between the two churches says that we are justified by faith alone to good works. So the cardinal at Vatican Square is absolutely correct when he said, believe in our heart, confess with our mouth that Jesus is Lord, and we'll be saved. Exactly that. And so we and everything we do comes out of the fact that we've been saved by the grace of God, and therefore we actually follow Jesus, and we keep his laws, and we keep his commandments.
I think something could be said about the education system could be better when it comes to religious studies. Because, for example, there's a lot of basic things that people have misunderstandings about, just like what you said about what you mentioned. But also, for example, there are some people who think Catholics worship Mary and they pray to Mary. Like, Catholics ask Mary to pray for them. There's a difference, and it's all these tiny things that was kind of obvious. And Catholics have to keep defending themselves every day.
Can I? Have I got time to be helpful to you?
No. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, okay. Go on. Yeah.
Okay. So, if I say to you, Maya, pray for me, okay, because you're my friend, I expect you to pray for me. Okay. Now, what the Catholic Church understands is the communion of saints. We have in Revelation the bowls of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. Now, what we don't do is we don't pray to Mary. What we actually say is, Mary, will you pray for us?
Yeah, you ask Mary to.
Just as I'm saying, Maya, will you pray for? And people go, well, they're dead. They're not dead. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. Today, to the dying thief, you will be with me in paradise. And Revelation is very clear that the saints that have gone before us are before the throne of God now, and they are offering up prayers for us. Now, we're not praying to them. We're just saying, Mary, or St. Joseph, or St. Leonard, or St. Jude, or St. James, pray for us.
Exactly.
And so there is not the prayers to Mary. Now, we get terminology wrong. The only person that we pray to is the Father through the Son, who is our intercessor.
Yes.
And so we pray to God, but we talk to our brothers and sisters, even those that have gone, before us. Why?
Yes.
Because they are praying before the throne of grace. And one last thing, a very good friend of mine who's just gone to be with the Lord, a friend in a friend in Australia, Ruth, my wife, is Australian, and so Mark was a catechist for the Catholic Church, and his daughter said to him, "Dad, don't leave me." And she was like really upset that her dad was getting older, and he said to me, I'm far more used to you up there than I am down here. Why? Because he's praying directly before the throne of God. I hope that's helpful to some of your viewers.
No, absolutely. We won't keep you too long. Just a couple of more comments, because obviously people have a message. John says, I don't get it. Any religious organization is only as valid as an African witch doctor. Super superstitious.
Okay, so look, so John, can I just say to you, stupidity and rubbish. When I was blind, literally, God healed my blindness. When I had a heart attack that was a widow maker that should have blown my heart out, I actually have zero damage to my heart muscle. God is a God of miracles, and it's certainly, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God.
Absolutely. We also have my fiance defending the Catholics. No, she's here defending the Catholics in the live chat. And one of our viewers, AFC Manica, says, Danielle, I know you're a Catholic, but you also have a sense of humor. I think you'll find dogma hilarious. I think Catholics have good sense of humor. Let's just say. Yeah. There is thank you, Father Phil, for standing up for traditional Christian values. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also, so many English are Christian in their ideology without knowing the source of their morality.
Yes,
Kiastasi and his woke, high-minded vigilance is sickening and doesn't resonate with Great Britain. I think that's a very good point, isn't it? And Russell says the Reverend Phil needs to speak with Brett Murphy. We should
Brett is my friend, and I think tomorrow he'll be talking about this on his channel.
Brilliant. Good. The answer is truly independent, non-institutionalized church like we have in the US. Of course, the Americans have their view. And we also have this video is probably the best video you have done so far. Thank you, Maya. Well, on that note, I think the video became the best because of Father Phil. So thank you so much for joining. Any last few words, Father?
Could I give a shameless plug? Is that okay?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, shameless plug. So obviously, I'm no longer the minister of St. James, but during lockdown, we started an online parish church called St. Jude and St. James, and the St. James part was a nod to my father, who was the minister of the time at St. James. Now, St. James is the patron saint of pilgrims, so hear that, and we're all pilgrims. Okay, if we have faith, we're all pilgrims. But St. Jude is the patron saint of lost causes and hope. And so when we got kicked out of the building and the congregation are going, we've got to do something, we have started St. Jude and St. James in person. And it's St. Jude and St. James ITC in the community. And so we are meeting in Cradley Heath at the Sports and Social Club and administering the sacraments at 10:30 every Sunday morning. If you don't have a church, or you actually want to experience the power of God, 10:30 Sunday mornings, St. Jude and St. James at the Sports and Social Club in Cradley Heath. Now, you can find information, and it's a very quick website at the moment.
What is
at
it?
St. Jude, ST Jude, AND, ST James .church.
.church, okay.
Yeah.
Is that it?
So, St. Jude and St. James.
I'll put it on the
You've
screen.
got it. There you go.
There we
Lovely.
go.
Thank you, Mayor. And you can find us there, and you can see where we're worshipping, and it's just been amazing the last few weeks. Now, we will be looking... I'm not so concerned about me, but we will be looking to purchase a new building.
Oh, wow.
And so, can I just keep your viewers appraised of that? We'll be looking, and if people want to help with that, and that's not for me, that's for the community. And the idea that I've got is that we take a building that's otherwise going to be closed and maybe lost to Christendom, and repurpose that for the good news of Jesus Christ. And my bishops are right behind that. So thank you very much for having me on. And I hope thank everyone for their support and for their love and their care.
Absolutely. I would have loved to come for 10:30, but my own church is at 11 a.m. On Sunday, so I can't be there. So thank you.
You go to your own church. I don't want to be poaching other people. Yeah, if you're a faith, go to a local church. If you're not in the West Midlands, go and find, even if the church is half empty, go along. We need to fill our churches again. Drive the minister, the vicar, the priest, whoever it is, mad. Just go to church. First tweet every Sunday morning. It's the Lord's Day. Go to church. That's the tweet. Go to church.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.